The naming of movies is always pretty interesting, especially when you just tell you what it's about. Like with horror, you have The Possession of Hannah Grace, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. It just kind of gives you that feeling of, okay, this is what this is about. We've got a game we're covering today with a similar title that I've been wanting to play for a long time, though it's probably not as horror-filled as you might expect. Here is my review of The Suicide of Rachel Foster for the Nintendo Switch. This game is centered around Nicole Wilson, who ran away with her mother at a young age after her father had an affair with a young girl named Rachel, and said young girl committed suicide not long after. She's brought back to the hotel after her mother dies, wanting to sell it and give all of the money to that poor girl's family. Unfortunately for her, this bad memory-filled place she becomes trapped in by a snowstorm and is forced to face her own past, solving the mystery of Rachel's suicide, finding out what really happened in this creepy hotel. Now the story I feel is good. Not great, but not bad either. Exploring the history and creepy hidden passageways of this hotel is fun and interesting, and it's got some really crazy twists towards the end, but it's not the monster-filled scarefest you're gonna expect from a ghost story. It's kinda more like a ghost movie where you don't visibly see the spirits constantly, but you can tell that there's something supernatural going on. It's really more about solving the mystery, though I will say that the game tackles and shows you some very heavy story elements. Make sure you're prepared for that, or it's really gonna hit you hard. When it comes to gameplay, this is a first-person adventure game, and let's get it out of the way right now. This game looks, sounds, and feels like a horror game, but it really isn't. You're not going to be running from enemies, you're not going to find weapons to shoot down zombies and monsters. This is more of a first-person mystery adventure in a creepy atmosphere and environment. Now when it comes to main progression, the game goes in days or chapters. Each day has you navigating the hotel to fulfill some objective while interacting with objects, picking them up, and reading notes depending on what you need at the time. Early on, this is pretty simple, like turning the furnace on so Nicole can take a shower or finding some food in the freezer. It isn't until later in the game when you're really trying to solve the mystery that it gets a bit more intricate, like finding secret and hidden passageways under the hotel. Progression is also where my biggest nitpick with the game is. It's really slow. The story picks up very sluggishly in the first few days, but so does the gameplay. The walking speed really chugs, and holding down the L3 button to run isn't that much faster. I was actually pretty surprised at the end of the game where we finally see Nicole's shoes that she wasn't wearing high heels the whole time like the protagonist in the first Remothered game. The different equipment and aiming is also pretty slow, especially the dynamo flashlight, where you have to light up different areas by mashing ZR over and over again to keep the flashlight on. Though the aiming isn't as much of a big problem because you can go to settings and up the sensitivity so it'll move faster. And FYI, I didn't figure this out until I'd already beaten the game on stream the other day, but you use the right analog stick left and right to modify the settings. Now let's go into the scare factor. This isn't a horror game by genre, but it is a pretty creepy atmosphere. Moving around the hotel does give you an eerie feeling. It's pretty easy to get lost, and you slowly learn your way around everything as the game goes by. And the game makes it even easier to get lost in the fact that you don't have a mini-map. The map you can pull up is just a regular paper map with no "you are here" places on it. You gotta figure out what rooms you're nearby and navigate yourself with the paper map from there. Also, the sound cues are really well done. Whether you're following a telephone to get a weird threatening message from someone in or out of the house, to hearing natural wind and water sounds, the game gives you a really creepy vibe. It's got just enough audible jump scares to keep you in that mindset of, maybe I should be careful and look around this corner slowly. That's about everything for the gameplay loop, so let's talk about the very short content and length of this game. Most of these first-person horror games, but then again, not really a horror game, even the listings just say adventure. Anyways, most of these first-person types of games last about 7 to 8 hours, and this one only took me about 4 to get through on stream last week. And that's also taking account for many times where I got lost and couldn't figure my way back to the master bedroom and garage. As far as post-game stuff goes, this is one of those games where it automatically resets the autosave to a new game when you beat it for the first time. So if you really want to see both of those endings, you're either going to go through the entire game again, or you're going to go to YouTube. Or if you're someone like me, you're going to be so emotionally torn apart from the ending that you got that you're not even going to want to. On the bright side, the game is only $20, and if you bought it on sale a few weeks ago like I did, you probably got it for 10 or 12. Next up is presentation. Visuals in docked mode aren't bad. They're a little blurry, but considering the WinMax 2020 couldn't even launch this game, it's much better than expected. Though it is worth noting that handheld ups the blur by quite a bit. Not to unplayable levels, but very noticeable. But performance is pretty much flawless. The frame rate is locked to 30 from start to finish. I never saw any drops as I've played it. With that out of the way, let's dive into battery life. The Suicide of Rachel Foster gives the original model a battery range of 2 hours and 37 up to 3 hours and 11. The Nintendo Switch Lite gets a range of 2 hours and 45 up to 3 hours and 33. The Red Boxer V2 2019 model gets a range of 5 hours up to 6 hours and 3, and the OLED model gets a range of 5 hours and 21 up to 6 hours and 30. In conclusion, Rachel Foster is a ghost tale that looks like horror but isn't quite what you expect. Now, the downside, the game is pretty sluggish with movement and setup, but once it gets going, it's a nice and short little adventure that delves into some pretty heavy themes. Just don't go in expecting to be running from ghosts constantly, and you'll enjoy this little mystery in a creepy hotel. Reviews to go rates The Suicide of Rachel Foster for the Nintendo Switch a 7.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.